I was interested in an organisation or a group that she'd been involved with as a student that was called People's Democracy. And I was interested in the development of that organisation from being something that had was involved with the civil rights movement in Northern Ireland at the time. This is, say, 1969. Had very their objectives, what they wanted to achieve, were quite limited. It was to do with voting rights and issues to do with housing and discrimination in jobs and employment. But when I went to see what archival material was available, well, first of all, there wasn't very much available to do what I wanted to do, but also I knew who she was, but I'd never really seen her in action, if you like. And I was very taken by her. She's a very naturally gifted speaker, and she is very principled, but has a very sort of direct way of presenting what she wants to say. So basically, I was interested in the development of those civil rights politics. To as you go on into the 1970s, she became much more radicalised, and that's really what I wanted to look at. I'm not sure whether she has this kind of extra relevance now, but I do think she's a very interesting figure. She's very overlooked in a way, you know, that she's been kind of to some extent forgotten as a figure. I think that the sort of politics that she espoused were not typical of how things developed in Northern Ireland. It was very much along the sectarian division of Catholic and Protestant. Didn't really kind of mix. The platform that she was trying to build was that that there would be solidarity based on class, and that she tried to eschew sectarian division. I think that's very important. I think one thing maybe about I made the film in 2008. If I was to have made it, say, 10 or 15 years before, I don't think it would have had the same reception. I think that she would have really been lumped in with, you know, it's a very kind of polar situation, very binary situation. And I think she would have been lumped in with, you know, with basically all the other sort of Republican parties, where in fact there are things that distinguish her from that. And I think now it's possible to kind of appreciate that more. First of all, because I didn't go out with a camera on my shoulder and observe all of this and record all of this. So the material that I had at my disposal to make the film, the archival material, has already been mediated in some way. Somebody's already kind of put a spin on that. So that's the reason why I structured the film in the way that I did, was to take account of that somehow, because I think it's, you know, in terms of how you relate to historical events through this kind of material, I think it's very important to understand how that's being constructed in the first place, and just to be conscious of that. And then, you know, the final section of the film, which is probably it has more fictional material in it. I think that what I was interested in doing was, rather than trying to be sort of conclusive or comprehensive and say this is the definitive Bernardette Devlin, she did this, this and this, and that's the end of the story, was to kind of open it up, to leave it deliberately open-ended. So there's a certain amount of confusion about what exactly is going on in the final section of the film, but that was an attempt to, rather than trying to close her down as a subject, but to open her up again. Also the fact that she's still alive and is still involved with politics, but, you know, in a much kind of more local way, and I think that any attempt to sort of say that this is Bernardette Devlin, that you would have to sort of acknowledge that, you know, and sort of acknowledge that it's ongoing. So that's why I deliberately left it open-ended. I think that, I mean, rather than being a sort of a conventional or supposedly objective documentary about her, I think that I would consider it to be much more a portrait of her. And so, you know, it does have a subjective feel, but anyway, I think that the way documentaries are made, like they still require the same suspension of disbelief that you would, that you would need to bring to a feature film, for example. Like, there's many of the same conventions involved with producing a documentary film. So that's the reason why I don't see why you can't include all of these elements in it, because I think they're already in documentary, they're already kind of inherent in the form.